For the Super Trofeo races, 28 Huracans and 6 of the Gallardos, so a 34-car field of Lamborghinis. They provided fireworks yesterday, and we're hoping for the same this morning. 25.1 degrees already track temperature, air temperature a little bit warmer, already up to 28 degrees. Humidity a very comfortable 32%, so great conditions to go racing. We saw the temperatures really soar through yesterday. 10:30 in the morning, you can see on the bridge here, and the big question is who can do anything about Patrick Kujala. Had to work his way to the front yesterday. There's the air temperature, 27 degrees temperature in the air. So the track will be warming up through the course of this 50-minute race. But the big question, Patrick Kujala has now won 5 races in succession, and that's put him on 75 points, 30 points clear of the pairing of Sergio Campana and Fabrizio Crestani. Eduardo Liberati and Patrick Niederhauser, they finished third yesterday and augmented their third position in the championship. Roman Mavlanov and Daniel Zampieri only fourth yesterday. They slide back to fourth on the points. Florian Spengler has plenty to prove. He didn't come home with any points yesterday, and that's dropped him down to 5th place overall. And as you can see, Adrian Amstutz in 8th place overall. He is leading the Pro-Am class. The Swiss driver, 14 points, so he's 8th in the overall championship, but when it comes to looking at the table for Pro-Am honours, he is the driver at the top of that. Points all the way down to 21st position in the championship, and Gunther Blieninger 1 point. Likewise, Jürgen Krebs, and Jürgen Krebs is the top driver in the AM class. So getting on the board in the overall championship, but running in the AM class, so a good job from German driver Jürgen Krebs. Using the chicane halfway down the Mistral Straight, and that proved a point of a certain number of fireworks yesterday during the race. That hard left, right, left combination onto the straight, and then up to Scene, that wonderful corner at the end of the Mistral Straight. As you can see, conditions very fine indeed as the drivers get some heat into their tyres. The track will be warming up by the minute. Full sunshine this morning, not a cloud to be seen in the sky over the French Riviera. And certainly yesterday they provided a good warm-up before the 6-hour race for the Blancpain Endurance Series that ran all the way through till 11 o'clock last night. So the track's had plenty of action so far. Ultra cars going out on the circuit in between, and the GT Sports Club has some racing as well today. So you can see why this is such a magnet for fans of supercars, fans of GT racing. And there have been good crowds all weekend here at the circuit Paul Ricard. So this morning they'll have 32 cars going out racing, a 16-row grid, and as you can see, it's already starting to get busy down there as the cars make their way round through the 10th and final corner of the lap, and the first few cars feeding onto the grid. And down on pole position we have the driver who's dominating the championship, Patrick Kujala from Finland, racing for Banalli Motorsport, and alongside the pairing of Daniel Zampieri and Roman Mavlanov in the number 5 car. A few cars taking the opportunity to do that little traditional dive through the pits. You're perfectly entitled to do that, and go back on round for another reconnaissance lap. Just check the conditions, check your tyres, and really the driver just to get their brain into racing gear here on the Sunday morning at Circuit Paul Ricard. Through the pits, accelerate hard away, and then that first corner, it's always worth seeing that one more time. It's a tight left, and certainly the fact it's followed immediately by a tight right means it's very tricky on the opening lap of the race. The driver's given one more chance to check how their tyres are gripping the tarmac, and of course at Paul Ricard, one of the features of the circuit are the painted bands out beyond the racing line, off the edge of the circuit, and many drivers stray onto that, and of course it's up to the stewards whether they allow them a certain degree of scope to do just that very thing. But in the case of cars getting close together, it does provide a get out, and we've been seeing that used many a time. But right now the driver's focused on staying on the black stuff in the middle of the circuit, and we will have some great racing coming up. 30 minutes of action starting at 10:50, 50 minutes of action starting at 10:50. Don't forget there's a pit stop in the middle of the race. If you're just one driver, you still have to be stationary for as long as the other crews. They'll have to stop for a minute, and that affords time for the driver changes to be made. And if you're not getting out of the car, you sit there and one of your pit crew will look at the stopwatch and tell you when you can get underway again. So it keeps it all fair. And probably just more than half the cars in this field have 2 driver lineups. Now we're riding on board, looking up. We've just come through the chicane on the back straight, up on the Mistral Straight, rising up the slight incline. It just kicks up at the end. You can see the 2 cars ahead on the rise, and then into Scene, perhaps the most famous corner on the circuit Paul Ricard. fearsome corner taken at considerable speed, and then that feeds into Le Beausset, a corner that seems to turn right forever. And this is Le Beausset here, that's the way in, and as you can see, round and round it goes, and certainly drivers have to be right on top of their cars to keep them on the black stuff there. And then they feed into a very twisty section of the circuit that brings it back round to the start-finish line. This race due to kick off at 10:50, so still 15 minutes away. 32 cars going out to play. We had 34 yesterday. Victory for Patrick Kujala, Alberto Cerchi and Giacomo Barri came second for Imperial Racing. Eduardo Liberati and Patrick Niedhauser, they finished third for Raton Racing. And then Daniel Zampieri and Roman Mavlinov got a little bit caught out, and they have ended up down in fourth overall. And it's very busy down on the pits. Let's hear from OJ with Marco Antonelli, boss of Antonelli Motorsport.
Marco, it was an up and down race for you yesterday. Half of it went well, half not so good. Talk us through the problems you had in the pits.
The problem is the driver released the button to the pit before the white line and give him the penalty.
You seemed very disappointed because at that point you'd been doing so well.
I think today hope the driver not do the mistake. I hope the good race.
But the car's going as well as it was yesterday.
The car yesterday is good.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's the reason why fourth place was the result for Daniel Zampieri and Roman Mavlinov. They'd led the early part of the race, but speeding in the pit lane, undoing all that good work. The fact they retrieved fourth place was credit to Roman Mavlinov for being able to press on, but it just gave an opportunity for Patrick Kujala to escape. And there is the car that finished second yesterday, Alberto Cerchi and Giacomo Barri, Imperial Racing. You can choose your own favourite livery on these magnificent-looking Lamborghini Huracans. You've got every colour on the grid down there, but I guess the best-looking car is the one that's first to the finish. And at the moment, it seems hard to look past Patrick Kujala, but certainly the pace that Daniel Zampieri showed when he led away from pole position yesterday. And for a long time, it looked as though Kujala had no answer at all, but he was relentless, the Finn, and his tyres were still sweet at the end of the race. That was enough for him to win. Wonderful camera work down on the grid, getting a chance to see all corners of the cars. That's the number 63 entry, which is the X-Technology Swiss R&D entry from Cedric Lima and Laurent Jenny, and looking very menacing in black. And that finished just outside the top 10 yesterday down. That's in the AM class, second in AM it was, but finishing down in 14th place overall. 32, that's the car you can see on pole position, the outside of the front row, the side away from the pit wall. And Patrick Kujala sitting in one of many Bonaldi Motorsport entries here at Circuit Paul Ricard. And certainly the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo is going from strength to strength. 34 cars yesterday, 32 coming out to play on this Sunday morning in the south of France. Simone Pellegrinelli, obviously long-standing runner in the championship, in number 31. And we're going to hear an interview from Patrick Niedhauser down on the grid. He'll be racing car number 9 from row 2.
Patrick, second row of the grid. There's still a possibility of doing well today.
Yeah, of course. Second row, we've got only 3 cars in front of us. Our target is the podium, like yesterday. We're going to see how the start is going. Just try to keep safe through the first 2 corners, and then yeah, we're going to push for a bit more.
The Paul Ricard, it's a fantastic racetrack, and it's a great place to drive a Lamborghini.
Yeah, in fact, it's been the first time for me in a GT here, and yeah, it's great. A lot of fast and difficult corners with the GT, so you can really push hard and make a difference here, and yeah, fantastic venue.
And how have you enjoyed driving in the Super Trofeo series?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, the racing here is fantastic. You know, I'm used to single seats where racing is a bit more difficult with the slipstream and dirty air, and here in GT with the Super Trofeo, 34 cars on the grid. I think it's amazing for a cup like that, and the racing is great.
When you're driving in a series where Patrick Kujala has won everything so far, 5 out of 5, what do you do when you're behind him on the grid? Do you keep just pushing?
Yeah, well, I mean, we push as hard as we can and try to overtake him. So far, it was not possible for us, though. Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job till now, and we try to improve ourselves to get him from now on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So interesting words there from Patrick Niedhauser, saying we'll be, obviously careful through the first 2 corners, and I guess there's an extra element because the sister car, also from Raton Racing, Alberto Di Folco, is alongside, and certainly that's something that gets team bosses rather angry indeed if two cars from the same team take a clash. But as I said, it's a tight left followed by a tight right. There's number 2 down on the grid, looking fabulous in the sunshine, and Mikko Eskelinen and Kelvin Snooks. That ran very well yesterday and then dropped down the order a bit, ending up down in 9th place, but that's from Leipert Motorsport, the number 2. There are all the flanks. You can see it's Kelvin Snooks. Great big, very kind of him to write his name so largely on the door, but wafting of air into the car because the temperature is rising and will continue to do so. But for those who are in less sunny parts of Northern Europe, this looks very enticing indeed, looking down at the south of France here, looking at these gorgeous cars on the grid, and we're in the final countdown towards the start of the race in 10 minutes time. You can see on the bridge nearly 10:41, 26.7 degrees. It's going up and down a little bit, but the overall passage is certainly up rather than down for the air temperature. Grid still cleared, still filled with many friends and family, but now it's starting to be cleared at the front. That's good. We can get a better look at the cars. That's the second row. That's Alberto Di Folco, also from Raton Racing, as the same team, of course, as Patrick Niederhauser, who's sharing the car alongside, looking absolutely magnificent in the bright gold livery that Raton Racing uses, and great for the photographers to have 2 of those along each side. Eduardo Liberati, of course, sharing the number 9 entry with the driver we just heard from, Patrick Niederhauser. The pair of them being filmed from our multi-talented cameraman on his Segway. No wonder the shots are so smooth as he circles his way around the cars there down on the grid. In fact, you can see the Segway on the right of the picture there, just leaving the edge of the circuit, going around to swoop in front of poleman Patrick Kujala's car. That's the number 32 entry, and there's Mike on his set of wheels. So the grid will soon be cleared. 32 cars down there. Can anyone do anything about Patrick Kujala? And Kujala keeping his head down. I've just heard word that he's so focused he's declined an interview today. He normally talks, even though he's won 5 on the trot. That just shows how much pressure. And yesterday he was pretty much monosyllabic before the start of the race. Very, very focused indeed. Of course, just crossed over from GP3 racing, and now now really making his name in cars with roofs. Patrick Kujala for Benaldi Motorsport, 5 wins on the trot. Still not convinced he can make it 6. In his own mind, he is really, really focused. His focus, of course, just on that first left-hand corner and the right that follows. If he can get into that little double sequence and out, then the race is his to lose. But it's a long race, 50 minutes. You've got to keep your tyres sweet, which is something he did very well through the course of yesterday's 50-minute race. There is that pit stop in between, and of course tyre temperatures drop while they're sitting in the pits for a minute. Some cars, of course, will be changing to the second driver during that time, but the result is the same. 1 minute in the pit, the heat you had in your tyres drops away, so you've got to be very careful again when you get back out into that first sequence of corners. Of course, there's space with the painted lines beyond, but that's where the dust is. You want to stay on the black stuff, so absolute focus. Row 3, Antonelli Motorsport number 15, Loris Spinelli and Marco Moscato, with Florian Spengler alongside. He's on the left-hand side of the grid. The Leipert Motorsport number 4 is on the left. Isaac Tatumlu and Jesse Antila. Vincenzo Sospiri Racing number 16. That's Shinya Mishimi and Kei Cozzolino. Now we're going on back. We have 16 rows of cars here, and being filmed again from the Segway, that wonderful moving shot. So pick out the cars. See if you can spot a Gallardo. You'll find them a bit further back down the grid towards the tail end, as you would expect. Of course, the Huracan, the new Lamborghini racer, and every shape, every colour of Lamborghini down here on the grid. But the sweet end, of course, is up the front, where Patrick Kujala will be starting alongside the number 6 entry of Alberto Cecchi and Giacomo Barri, veterans of the Lamborghini racing scene. It's a long way from the front of the grid to the back, but just enough space. In fact, we had 60-odd cars racing in the Blancpain endurance race last night, and they couldn't all even get through the final corner before the race was released. Such a line of cars. Here we have just over half that number, 32 cars going out racing. In fact, we're missing one from the penultimate row. That should be, I think that's Christoph Lentz who is missing. No, I beg your pardon, it's the Toro Loco entry of Tim Richards. Number 28 is missing. Mark that down on the charts. Right, of course, we'll have another formation lap, and then the race will be released, and the Huracan at the front of the grid just starting to edge away, and let's see if the others get away cleanly on this final exploration lap. So the Huracan pace car, if you will, leading away from the front, and we're waiting for the signal for the front row to start moving away as we're in the final countdown of this race. And from pole position, bear in mind, is on the right-hand side of your screen. That's Patrick Kujala. The white Lamborghini with the red and gold colours on it, and the white with the blue is the number 6 entry of Alberto Cecchi and Giacomo Barri. So it looks as if everybody's getting away, with the exception of the number 28 entry, which I'll just check doesn't go past my window, so I have to shoot myself down. But it didn't appear to be on that penultimate row of the grid. And I haven't seen one going down towards pit exit to start from there. Yeah, the last car to go past was another entry from Toro Loco. That was 69. That's Peter Aronson. So, yeah, looks like we're missing one, but that's still more than 30 cars. Now here it is, Patrick Kujala starting on the front row alongside the Zampieri Mavlanov entry number 5. Alberto Di Folco, Raton Racing, and the Liberati Niederhauser. It's a pair of Raton Racing entries. Then again, you're seeing the top teams: Antonelli Motorsport and Florian Spengler running for Benaldi Motorsport, Lippert Motorsport, and Vincenzo Sospiri Racing, the team run by the former F3000 champion. Then Barry and Cecchi, they finished second yesterday. They're down on row 5. So some you win, some you lose. They've got to do a lot of making up. But up front, you have to. It's hard to look beyond the pair on the front row. They were the class acts yesterday. Daniel Zampieri sharing with Roman Mavlanov, and Patrick Kujala, of course, who came through. Had to work hard, but his tyres were good in the latter parts of the race, and that is when he struck and went through to take his 5th win on the bounce. The big question as they go around this final formation lap is, can he make it 6 wins on the trot? And that he already has a 30-point lead in the championship, and this will reach the halfway point in the series. So he's looking nailed on if he can get this one. Very, very good bet for the championship title. Very impressive form from the young Finn, who's making such a mark. Now he's moved across from single-seaters. There's the penultimate row of the grid, and we think Tim Richards is missing from there. And then Pete Aronson bringing up the back in number 69 alongside the Silver Imperial Racing, Karina Lima, Andrea Palmer entry. But all eyes, of course, when they get back. They've got half a lap to go, just coming through the chicane that is used, of course, at Paul Ricard. We have many different designations of track, and to keep things interesting, this one for the Super Trofeo, we're using the chicane halfway down the Mistral Straight. They have to turn sharp left, then a bit of a dash to the right, and then back left onto the straight, then up that gentle rise. You see it much more on the cameras than you do when you're driving around into scene. And then where it's really difficult is getting Le Bossé, the long right-hander at the end, getting that correct. Very easy to run wide, but I must say yesterday people behaved really well indeed in the Super Trofeo race, so Lamborghini can be proud. And certainly the Huracan, which has broken cover this year, has been a very, very impressive car indeed. Running faultlessly in its maiden season here. There's the number 2 entry that yesterday placed well, but today Mikko Escalenen and Kelvin Snooks starting down on the 8th row. Yesterday they finished 9th, so ground could be made up, but it's a long race, 50 minutes. You just got to keep your cool on the opening lap. Many a race has been lost in the first few turns, and let's hope we don't have that happen here today. So the formation lap is coming towards its conclusion. We'll have the cars back on the grid, and then 50 minutes of racing will be here to entertain us. The drivers should have heat in their tyres now, bunching up behind the pace car as they come round 2 by 2 now. So the drivers doing exactly as they've been instructed to do, running in grid order. And easy to pick out the 2 Raton Racing entries on the second row, Alberto Di Folco and Edoardo Liberati, who will be handing over to Patrick Niederhauser. Forward-facing cameras show how the cars are just starting to pick up the speed. They come through the final corner, rolling onto the start-finish straight. The pace car will peel off into the pits. Look at the starting gantry, waiting for the lights to go green. Green they have gone as the final few cars come through. A great start indeed from our pole setter Patrick Kujala, being challenged very hard indeed by Alberto Di Folco as they go down to the opening corner. Di Folco now seems to be being passed in turn, but Kujala has the run to the first corner. Folco slots in behind him, and Daniel Zampieri, I think, has fallen down to 3rd position. No, he hasn't. Oh no! I talked about the Raton Racing not wanting both its cars on the second row. They were going to be sensible. They have both spun. I don't think they hit. I think one avoided the other. Easy to pick out. What a disaster for Raton Racing, and one of the tail enders has also gone for a spin. So that's at turn 2. Between 1 and 2 was where the problem came for Raton Racing. The 2 cars from the second row both going for rotation, but race leader Patrick Kujala has Daniel Zampieri right on his tail. But the second row, well, they've eliminated themselves. Not out of the race, but certainly out of the reckoning. And there was 90 rejoining. That was Alberto Di Folco. Great run off the start line. 2 more cars have gone for a rotation. That's 87 and 31. So just checking down the entry list. 87 is the Artline Team Giorgio car, Mikhail Stepanov. And 31 is from the Imperial Racing. That's Simon Pellegrinelli. So now a challenge for the lead as they go through the second part of the chicane on the back straight, and Daniel Zampieri really pushing Patrick Kujala, but the Finn is just ahead. The white Huracan with the red markings on the top of its wing, running on the dusty part of the circuit, still holds the lead, but Zampieri showing a real turn of speed as he presses very hard indeed on his tail, and Loris Spinelli in the background in 3rd place, as those 2 Huracans need to be extracted from the circuit. There they are. They haven't even drifted off the circuit. Are they interlocked? I don't know, but the first 3 have made a really good escape. So Kujala, Zampieri and Spinelli. Number 6 goes for a run wide. That's Alberto Ciacchi, who did so well, finishing 2nd yesterday. So well, fireworks on the opening lap, and the safety car is being brought out. No surprise at all there. There's the SC board, because those 2 cars are locked together. 87 and 31 in that clash. So sitting there on the circuit, a very short Sunday morning run, I'm afraid, for Simone Pellegrinelli, and 87, that was Mikhail Stepanov. So the yellow flags are out, the safety car boards are out. Let's have a replay. Looking fine, the second row going well. Was there a tap between one and yes, there was, I'm afraid. I think I could possibly put the blame at the door of Eduardo Liberati, but let's check. But either way, Raton Racing looks as though it could be heading for a great result, and it was a disaster by the second turn. Spinning in sympathy behind them, but a very short run towards glory for the Raton Racing from the second row. Patrick Kujala did just enough to get down to the first corner first, and that's exactly where he needed to be. And Daniel Zampieri from the outside of the front row survived the initial challenge from Raton Racing, and was able to slot into 2nd place. And the driver who gained the most was Loris Spinelli. He moved up to 3rd, of course. He started 5th on the grid, and the cars that started 3rd and 4th ended up right down at the tail, having spun off. And the one who suffered more is Alberto Di Folco, who's halfway back down the grid now. Car 6 limping into the pits. That was Alberto Ciacchi. We saw him have a moment out on that opening lap. So they had all night to think about this race after the race on Saturday, and I'm afraid some maybe haven't thought about it quite enough. But of course, many incidents can occur, and you can end up a result of someone else's moment. But for Alberto Ciacchi, his pit garage right down towards pit exit, coming in for a checkup, looking to see what the mechanics are up to. Of course, safety car out on the circuit, and one of the cars, the 87 car, is now being pulled off the racing line. But that wasn't a dream opening lap, so that was down at turn 4 that they went for their spin, between 3 and 4. And there's the number 6 parked, and end of the day for Alberto Ciacchi. So 2nd place yesterday, and in fact that's Giacomo Barry who's getting it, I beg your pardon. So over and out for the number 6 entry. And just looking to see if which other car that is going in. Is that Adrian Amstutz? I think it could be. Run through the pits, had it checked out. He won the Pro-Am class yesterday, so he's got to catch up with the tail of the train and then see how many places he can pick up through the course of this race. Gosh, how the pendulum can swing from great run and good fortune, and yet another pit visitor, like number 30, I was going to say 36, but I'll have to look at that door a bit more carefully. So depends how long the safety car is going to be out on the circuit as to how much ground these pit visitors, 28. That's the M-Tech run. Tim Richards, he was the one who started down towards the tail of the grid. And too many fireworks on the opening lap. Patrick Kujala kept himself clear of the trouble, starting from pole position. Daniel Zampieri from the outside of the front row, he too stayed clear of that battling, but it was the spin, the joint spin, the spin in unison of Raton Racing, the duo. And that's Simone Pellegrinelli, who was one of the 2 cars, the drivers of the 2 cars, his is the silver one that is being pulled up onto the back of the truck, and so that was a very short race indeed for the Lamborghini Series veteran. And there's Simone's car about to be put onto the flatbed. So this clearing up should be over relatively soon, and for those who visited the pits, they don't mind if it goes on for another couple of laps, because they can join the tail of the train, the drivers going around in race order behind the safety car. And there's the 87 Art Line entry, and it was Mikhail Stepanov who started, so Harold Schlegel-Milch not getting to have a run today. And there's Mikhail walking back, no doubt finding it quite a warm morning down here in the south of France. Of course, would have been wanting his car to go for the full race. And we're going to have an interview with the CEO of Lamborghini, Stefan Winkelmann, who's down in the grid with OJ.
Stefan, beautiful weather, a fantastic place for another race.
Yes, this is the last race for us of the weekend. The Super Trofeo has made a record presence with 34 cars on the grid. Almost all are Huracan up to now, so we are very happy about that. And we have a well-balanced grid. We have drivers from all over the place, and this is a good sign also for the future.
And it's an amazing thing to see so many Lamborghinis on one track at one time.
I'm used to it, and I hope everybody is getting used to it. But this is the right thing, and we're here to promote the brand. We are here to make our drivers very competitive. The car is amazing. It's the fastest on the grid, so in terms of the one-make race series. And I think that this is going to be well appreciated all around the world.
You talk about it being competitive racing. It is fierce out there on the grid.
Yes, they are very competitive. Everybody wants to win. We have one boy, I can say, who is from Finland, who is doing an amazing job, and he's winning almost all the races.
And we've seen so many drivers come through the Super Trofeo and go on to bigger things and race in different series.
Yeah, this is an idea we have. We start with, let's say, driving academies, where we test our customers and prospects on their skills. Then if we have good ones, they are stepping up into the Super Trofeo. And then now we have also the GT3. And I think it's a good thing, and it's all coming from Lamborghini, and we're a small brand, so this is the way to approach it.
Stefan, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
So good to hear from Stefan Winkelmann. The car's still circulating as the 87 and 31 are cleared up behind the safety car. They'll go around for at least this lap. I'll let you know as soon as the message comes onto the screen and we see the lights go out on the safety car, but the driver's having to refocus. The running order is Patrick Kujala behind the safety car. There he is, and the white one with the blue stripe is Daniel Zampieri. Loris Spinelli in third place. Then number 16, which is Shinya Michimi, from Vincenzo Sospiri. Then 26 behind that is Sergio Campana, and sixth place at the moment 33, which is Florian Spengler. He had a bad run yesterday, but today he's atoning for that and is up the order. So the cars are being cleared up. We had the clash down there very early in the lap. The first sequence of corners really very tricky indeed. Now here we are, still the replay of the start, all looking nice and orderly. The cars bunched up in row order behind two columns, row by row, 16 rows coming around. The lights are green and away we go. So great start by Patrick Kujala. Raton Racing, Alberto Di Folco in the gold car, very close indeed, and a challenge from Loris Spinelli up the inside. So through turn one it's all clean. You think that's job done, but the problem came at the next bend where they turn right at turn two. There's Kujala leading. Oh, that's interesting. There's something looks like it's leaking out of the back of the car. Well, I wonder why, if maybe that's why the two Raton Racing cars from row 2 went round. They had a spin. Certainly something was pouring out of the back of Patrick Kujala's car. We had another spin. In fact, well, I think he might have suffered it as well at the tail end of the field there on whatever came out of the back of Patrick Kujala's car. Well, let's hope it's not, well, it's serious for them. Let's hope it's not something serious for Patrick Kujala, because if that was just a little bit of overfill, that is sort of okay, but if it's liquid the car needs later in the race, that could be very interesting. Wow, I didn't see that on the start. I was trying to look, but very useful having that replay, and that now could explain, because I didn't think there'd been any contact between the two Raton cars, the gold cars on the second row, but they did spin in unison, and then almost to compound that situation. We had a car right down at the tail of the grid going for a spin as well. So it could be they do all have mitigating circumstances. They could have a reason for why, because none of them were in very close proximity with the others. Certainly we've seen these Huracans running much closer through corners than that without managing to spin. So there is a possible reason. So great camera work picking that up. So anyhow, still running at the front, Patrick Kujala ahead of Daniel Zampieri and Loris Spinelli, who came up from the third row once the two gold cars had spun out of the way. And so lots of talk from the pit wall. Keep the heat in your tyres, stay focused, we're going to be restarting soon. Safety car in this lap, the message is on the screen. That was the message that was going out to them as they go through scene into Le Beausset. So the front half dozen are going to have to really focus. Of course, the driver at the head of the queue is the one who can dictate. Now he'll have seen the lights are out on the safety car. He can dictate the moment that he puts the hammer down and makes his escape into full racing speed again. And Daniel Zampieri, plenty of experience. He'll be knowing he's got to get right on the tail and be ready to anticipate. But if he anticipates the anticipation, if you will, he could get way too close to the back of Patrick Kujala. But Zampieri's been racing for a long time. He knows his stuff, but he's got to be absolutely alert to any twitch of movement from the 32 car that's leading in front of him. Patrick Kujala, the young boy from Finland, as Stefan Winkelmann described him, and a very effective young boy from Finland he is indeed. So still leaking liquid out of the back. There it is. You can see out of the tail of the number 32. Well, I don't know what it is. It seems like a James Bond device. Get the car to spin behind you. But we're now racing again. As you can see, the car's going out over the curbing and beyond, and it looks like a very clean restart. About 3 car lengths clear between the first car to the second car to the third car. And as we saw before the safety car came out, those are the 3 class acts in the field. Patrick Kujala, Daniel Zampieri and Loris Spinelli already pulling clear. And Zampieri running a little wide out of turn 2, as is someone down in about 10th place. But the good thing is nobody has spun there, as they did on the first lap when they were racing in full anger. But Zampieri closing in onto the tail through twisty turn 3 of the race leader, Patrick Kujala. Don't forget, it's a long race, even though we had that time behind the safety car. They've got to get the heat back into their tyres, but not abuse them. And we saw yesterday, certainly in the closing laps, those who were gentle on their tyres early in the race had far more performance at the end. It's a long race, plenty of time for them to pick off the cars ahead, but let's not get too hasty. And there's one of the Raton Racing cars. I think that was Alberto Di Folco picking off a couple as he went into turn 4, so he was displaced from the second row. I'm sure we'll see a fight back. And we've just had an overtake for the lead into the chicane down the back straight. Well, I said Zampieri was looking quite feisty as he went through turn 3, dived up the inside. I didn't expect him to make that move, but there's no time like the present, and Zampieri takes the lead of the race. And now let's see what Patrick Kujala can do in the fight back. Don't forget, he chased Zampieri for the first half of the race yesterday, seemed to have no answers, went in for their mandatory pit stop. Zampieri changed over to Roman Mavlinov and was only eliminated really from the effective running because a little bit of speeding in the pits. So Kujala is letting him go at the moment, or maybe he's not letting him go. He simply doesn't have a choice, and now his mirror's filled very much by the other car from Antonelli Motorsport, which is Loris Spinelli, right on his tail in the number 15. Yeah, Zampieri looked very feisty in the first few corners of the lap, certainly through turn 3 into turn 4. He gained a real handful of time over the race leader, Patrick Kujala. Got onto the Mistral straight with a better entry speed to the back straight on the circuit and really made it stick, ahead by the time they got to the chicane halfway down the straight. So very, very positive restart lap for Daniel Zampieri in the lead. His gap is 1.4 seconds back to Patrick Kujala, so super effective lap. We'll keep a look on lap times. The fastest time we had yesterday was set by Zampieri, 2 minutes and 6 seconds, 6.0 seconds. And there is the fight back from Raton Racing. Pick places will be gained. Eduardo Liberati going up a place in number 9. That's Kujala. Kujala has gone off the circuit. Spun on his own. Did he spin on his own oil or whatever's been coming out of the back? That was a... Gosh, he's having a... Oh, well, we'll find out later, but... That's upset the apple cart. So now it's looking great for it's 1-2 for Antonelli Motorsport, and Kujala trying to fight back, but not so long ago, about this point on the circuit last time around, he was in the lead of the race. Now he's down in 5th as he goes onto the Mistral straight. But well clear now is Daniel Zampieri at the front, Loris Spinelli in 2nd place, and Shinya Michimi in the white car with the red front wings, the little gold flashes. Japanese driver up now into 3rd place overall. Well, let's keep an eye very much on whether there are continued problems from Patrick Kujala. Has he got a handling imbalance? did he spin on whatever juice is coming out of the back of his car, but he's still quite tail happy even at that point on the lap. So no problems at all for Daniel Zampieri. He was 1.4 seconds clear on the start-finish line last time around. That gap's definitely going out, but a driver making the move, the fastest middle sector of a lap so far in this race. The driver in second place, Loris Spinelli. So plenty of speed from Antonelli Motorsports cars at the start of the race. Fighting back, 99, that wasn't one of the cars that started on the front row, but running in the bright gold livery. Kinetic now, again, that's turn 2, and there's a replay of Patrick Kujala. Very simple spin. Slight flame out there. You often get that when cars have had a spin. He's got to get back onto the circuit, which he does eventually. Someone else had a spin. Oh, he's definitely dropping stuff. Other people have been getting very loose behind him. So, on to another lap. It was 1.4 seconds between Zampieri and Spinelli last time. 2.2 seconds this time. Then Michimi in third. Sergio Campana fourth. And it looks like the end for number 32. Smoking away, running very slowly indeed. So the chink in the armour of this amazing run. We've got a puncture here. A puncture. And bodywork rubbing on the left rear wheel there for Patrick Kujala. So his amazing run of 5 wins does not become 6. He is sitting on a 30-point championship lead, but this is exactly what Zampieri would have been hoping for, a no score for the Finn, so the others can claw their way back as we approach the halfway point in the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo series. So problems indeed for the pole man, the man who seemed impervious to problems. And a spin followed by a slow limp back to the pits, and I think that's the end of the race. There's the gap between first and second between Zampieri and Spinelli. Michimi keeping them honest behind in third place, and then Campana being pushed very hard indeed now by number 33, which is one of the sister cars. That's Florian Spengler, giving at least some hope for Benaldi Motorsport. There's Spengler on the tail of the black car. Oh, now it's very spectacular. Toro Loco, number 69, started on the back row of the grid. In and out, but they seem to not big flames. They apparently keep lighting at various points around the circuit. The driver won't be able to see them, of course, but a driver who is obviously checking everything, but coming into the pits, and you can see smoke from the tail of poor Patrick Kujala's car. He went for that spin, and well, there may be no damage. It may simply just be a puncture. They've got to replace it, but he's had to spin, had the very slow lap, and is way out at the back of the order. Kujala may decide just to park up. Just looking to see how much damage there is to the bodywork. In fact, none that we can really spot. A little bit of black marking just behind on the back of the wheel arch there. So while the crew, the Benaldi Motorsport crew, work on that, down it goes. Patrick back into the race. Yep, engine fired up, off he goes again. So let's see what sort of charge he can achieve. He's down in about 30th position. We've had 2 cars eliminated already, so might be, well, we'll see how high up the 20s he can get, if he can even get higher than that. Still the field comes past, so he's got some behind, but don't forget he's already lost a lap limping back to the pits. So back into the race, he'll slot into that line somewhere, and then let's see what sort of speed he can run. Of course, he's been the class act, the driver who's won 5 races on the bounce, but now the puncture, the pit stop, and his race isn't run, but it's certainly compromised. And that's the corner where he went out off the circuit, turn 2. And he didn't bring a lot of rubber back for the team to play with. No flat spots on that. In fact, there's no tyre, really, left on that. Number 9 started on the front row. That was Eduardo Liberati. We saw him have a spin, possibly on something coming out of the back of Patrick Kujala's car on the second turn of the opening lap, and now he's picking his way up the order. He's up into 10th place, so a good charge from the number 9. The sister car with Alberto Di Folco is 6 places further back, but also on a charge. So the gold cars, look out for them working their way up the field. Well, it's busy down in the pits, and OJ is going to speak to Patrick Benaldi to find out about the oil that's coming out.
Marco, what's been going on with Patrick's car? He seems to be spewing oil out of the back.
Oh, that's just condensation. The problem was just a rear puncture.
It was just a puncture, so nothing's coming out of the back that's making anyone spin?
No, nothing.
Patrick's had such a good run in the Super Trofeo series, 5 wins out of 5. Is this the end of his good luck?
Well, we hope not. We hope just one race has gone bad, hey?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So that was Marco Benaldi, boss of the eponymous team. So we've seen, he calls it condensation, but Let's have a little look at the car in slow motion. Well, it's still pumping. Still pumping, pit window open, but well, it does look like something from a James Bond movie, doesn't it? Make the car behind spin, but no problems at all for Daniel Zampieri. Sitting in the back, he's then taken the lead, did it on merit on the restart lap after the safety car period, and look how he's opening out the gap. It was 2.2 seconds, it's now 2.6 seconds back to the sister car, the Loris Spinelli car that's leading the Pro-Am runners in this race in second place overall, and the first pit visitors, well, they're not the first pit visitors, but the first ones to make a regular pit stop, pouring in 5 cars in almost in a train, diving into the pits. And we can see both of the Raton racing cars that started on the second row and went for a rotation. They're coming in for their pit stop in the case of Alberto Di Folco, and a pit stop and driver change with Edoardo Liberati hopping out, and Patrick Niederhauser will be taking over. Great little battle here. The black, there's the 99 car, we saw that come in the pit earlier, but the black car with Sergio Campana from Team Lazarus running very well indeed, up in 4th place. Mikhail Spirodinov at the standstill. It looks as though the car is not going anywhere, but of course they have to be stationary for the mandatory time. The doors open just to keep the drivers as cool as possible. But race leader Daniel Zampieri continues out on the circuit. We saw this car, the number 5, number 96, run very well yesterday, particularly in the hands of Milos Pavlovic, and then later in the race it fell just outside the top 10, but looks like a nice standard pit stop for the team there. Wait for the moment until you're indicated your time at standstill is at a stop and you can rejoin. 33, Florian Spengler, teammate to Patrick Kujala, running very well indeed in 5th place there, chasing Sergio Campana. Of course, the order will now be jiggled a little bit, but none of the top 10 runners on the track at the moment has come in for a pit stop. In fact, I think 10th place was the first of the pit visitors, which was Edoardo Liberati. And there is the car that Liberati brought in, the gold one in the background. Started on the second row, one of the Raton racing cars. Out on the track, out on his own, is Daniel Zampieri. I reckon he will run, I was going to say, one more lap before coming in for Roman Mavlanov. Nothing of the sort. So the race leader brings the race leading car. It was 2.6 seconds clear last time around. Roman Mavlanov doing a last bit of twitching and just focusing himself for taking over. Doesn't have to be hurried in terms of getting into the car, but one thing that has to be absolutely plain is his focus on the race ahead. So for Daniel Zampieri, great job. Handshake for the team boss, to Daniel. Job well done. Let's hope there are no mishaps in the pit stop. This cost them dearly yesterday, and they had to make a pit visit. But Roman Mavlanov has got on board, is being strapped in, and I think once all the pit stops have been achieved, he will be back in the lead of the race in the number 5. Number 15, the sister car. There it is, big on your screen. That's leading the race now, leading the Pro-Am class as well. Loris Spinelli. So Antonelli Motorsport drop one car out of the lead to make its pit stop and keep the other out perhaps for this remaining lap, because this pit stop should be completed just in time. Oh, and we have a spinner out at the back of the circuit, just trying to identify that one for you. 77, I was worried it was 27 for a second. 77 is the Tullius Racing Matteo Tullio car, so little rotation, managed not to hit anything, so that is a relief all round. Running in 22nd position. And the pit stop is over, and Roman Mavlanov in the car that led the race in the hands of Daniel Zampieri going back into the mix. So Antonelli Motorsport could be looking good for a win today, having had it escape them yesterday. The best placed car was the number 5 entry yesterday, but only in 4th place overall after that extra pit visit. That excruciating extra visit because of a misdemeanor in the pits. But we had explained to us. 96 lapping well at the moment. Raffaele Giannoni, we saw that make the pit stop, and Milos Pavlovic should have taken that over for Automobili Tricolore. Still in the pit window, still cars coming in to make their stops, but still we have out leading this race, Loris Spinelli. There he is in number 15, leading the Pro-Am class. And looking very capable indeed. A very, very positive start for him. He tried a run on the 2 Raton racing cars as they went down to the first corner, had to back out of it, and managed to avoid them as both the gold cars went for that spin. There's one of the gold cars going down into the first corner. Loris Spinelli comes on for another lap and being pushed hard by Shinny Michimi on the right-hand side of your windscreen, and your windscreen. I'm looking through a windscreen, through your television screen, and managed to go through turns 1 and 2 absolutely fine. A little bit of a twitch from Michimi there, ran wide, managed to keep it together. and then turns onto the faster part of the circuit. But Circuit Paul Ricard, you always seem to be on a turn, and particularly when the Mistral straight, the one long straight part, has a chicane inserted halfway up it for this race. It means these drivers have to really keep these cars so well balanced. But Audi Motorsport, that's don't worry, that is not the one that's number 32 that started from pole position for Patrick Kujala. That's number 3, entered by Jay Palmer, British driver, and Matteo Bobbi, making its pit stop. They retired from yesterday's race, but clearly right in the running today. So Loris Spinelli still keeping the lead of this race. His gap over the Shinya Michimi car was just under 1.3 seconds last time around. He looks so he's opened out a tiny bit more, but he is due a pit stop. Loris Spinelli will be handing over to Marco Moscato sometime soon. There they are, through the chicane on the back straight. Now up the gentle rise towards Seen, and then into the long, long right-hander. Number 12 in the pits, lights flashing away. Conrad Motorsports livery, that's Amir Krenzia. And he's having his standard pit stop. He's not handing over to anyone else. He's just sitting, waiting until he can go back out to play again. His position is listed as 13th, but of course he's falling down the order while those that haven't pitted continue out on the circuit. One of those is race leader number 15, Loris Spinelli. Go, 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 good message to put out. That was to Daniel Zampieri, and it really worked for him. He made that good lead, fabulous start. Right, I just want to apologise. Daniel Zampieri apparently is in the car now, and Roman Mavlanov did the opening stint of the race. 100%. So we've checked the right driver, got out. Okay, so apologies, I went off the timing screen. But leading the race at the moment is still Antonelli Motorsport, number 15, but will be due in for its pit stop, and there's Shinya Michimi in for his pit stop and driver change. But having a very long opening stint, Loris Spinelli. And there is Spinelli, still working his craft on the circuit here at Paul Ricard. Wonderful warm conditions, sunny summer morning. Of course, we have the pit stops that they seem, in comparison to if you're used to many forms of sports car racing, you've got mechanics pouring all over the car, but here it's a very nice controlled pit stop during the race. It looks like a little puff of smoke, I thought. They're out of the Zampieri Mavlanov car, but so Daniel in the car now, and he was really the star of the race yesterday in the early stint when he built up a good lead, and just looking at the way the car is being thrown around the circuit, being driven with real aplomb here on the Sunday morning at Circuit Paul Ricard. So Antonelli Motorsport looking good for victory here today. Kei Cozzolino should have taken over from Shinya Michimi, waiting. That was running in 3rd place, just waiting for the pit stop to come to an end, and so it does. Back into the race, released after the mandatory time for the pit stop. That standstill has been completed. And look how, looking at the car angles that Daniel Zampieri achieves, he's driving this car right on the limit, showing how a Huracan can be driven, and certainly it's a pleasure to watch this performance. 22 minutes remaining. Now, who's going to come out in 2nd place? Will it be Kei Cozzolini? But anyhow, there we are. Zampieri had the speed before the pit stop. That's interesting. Now, of course, we have to see what happens when Loris Spinelli comes in for his pit stop in the number 15. So for the moment, Kei Cozzolino has taken over 16 from Shinya Michimi. He is running in 2nd place. They did well yesterday. They finished quite high up the order, but in fact in the latter parts of the race they had slid back a little bit. Sorry, they were higher. They fell down to 8th place overall, but right now they're running 2nd in the race. 15 still waiting for the pit stop for Loris Spinelli. Bit of traffic ahead of him there. That will be delaying him and infuriating him somewhat. Now, is he going to come in this time around? Yes, the body language of the car is such that he will. So Loris Spinelli will be coming in. And there's a theory that when things go slightly wrong, they go very wrong indeed. Because guess what? Who had the problem early on? Yes, Patrick Kujala. He's been called into the pits again. Stop and go penalty for not respecting the time limit in the pit lane. So this is the sort of problem. He saved a second and is now going to cost himself a very long time with an extra pit visit. So any hopes he had of picking his way up the order can be forgotten. In fact, he's down in 28th position. The extra pit stop will cost him yet more time. So 5 leading the race down to Zampieri for Antonelli Motorsport. They've got another 10 tilt at victory because the 15 car that came into the pits is sitting in the pits at the moment. Will it be able to emerge in the lead? I think it'll come out, providing the pit stop runs it according to plan, about 2 or 3 seconds down on Zampieri. But let's see if I'm right, because Zampieri going through the twisty corners towards the end of the lap here at Paul Ricard, and the pit buildings in the background there. You can see the final few moments, the driver changed Loris Spinelli to Marco Moscato, still at a standstill. And into the final sequence of corners comes the sister car with Daniel Zampieri building on the lead that Roman Mavronov gave him. Now underway, but you have to stay within the pit speed limit. So is it going to be 15? Is it going to be 5? 5 is on the straight. You're looking at Daniel Zampieri as he roars over the slight crest. The ridge, there he comes over the top. In the background on the left you can see the sister car coming out, but Zampieri has enough done, but the gap, well, it's about as it was before, about 3 seconds judging by the split on time, maybe marginally more. So a good bid by Moscato as he came out, but just enough of a lead for 5 to stay ahead of 15. So honours very much with Antonelli Motorsport at the moment. Final few cars have now just completing their pit stop, so we have the full complexion of the race again, and it is the number 5 car back in the lead. The timing screens tell me it's Mavronov, but the eyes in the pits tell us that it's Zampieri on board. And to prove the fact, you know what, we're going to go and talk to Roman Mavronov down in the pits.
Roman, the pit window is closed and you're in the lead of the race. A better position than yesterday.
Yeah, I'm very happy for this attention. It is a very great start. I'm push Kujala, I think, first 2 laps, and after I'm overtook him on top before the checkout. I'm very happy, but I hope today we will be lucky, nothing happen more. And we finish the race like.
Thank you, Roman.
So it's very good that OJ was doing the detective work down there. He not only identified the fact it was Zampieri who got into the car, but Roman Mavronov got out. So all those moves I credited to Zampieri in the first part of the race, just flipped the name over. Roman Mavronov, and he looked pretty pleased with his performance, hunting down Kujala, getting into the lead past him, and then building that small advantage that was still enough. So after the driver change, and for the sister car, the 15 car, it was enough for their car to be back in the lead of the race with Zampieri at the wheel. So 5 leading. Stop and go penalties for this car that's running up. That's Florian Spengler. Again, it's a pit time. They try and shave a second off the pit stop, and it gets them a pit visit. So Florian Spengler, 0 points yesterday, and I'm afraid this is probably going to push him outside the points, outside the top 10. So time for consideration at the end of this race for several drivers, or maybe the driver just goes when he's waved off. So it could well be that the mechanic with the stopwatch is the one who's got it slightly wrong. But either way, a huge setback to the drivers in question. So car 32 and car 33, you know what? I think the stopwatch they have at Bonaldi Motorsport that runs both of those may be just a little bit inaccurate, as both of them have picked up the penalties. So, but it doesn't really affect the race for car 32 for Patrick Kujala. He's already had to delay the slow lap with the tyre flailing, the flat tyre trailing on his car. And now the stop-go penalty. But for 33, he just got up into 2nd place overall. Florian Spengler started and will be finishing the race, but he's got that extra pit stop coming up for him. So now the order's settled down. It's not 5 from 33, it's 5 from 16. So Kay Cozzolino has benefited through the pit stop cycle. He's got ahead of the 15 entry with Marco Moscato. And there is one of the Bonaldi cars coming out, having served its drive-through penalty. But and there's Patrick Kujala. He got the call first. He's made that stop. And another message on the screen. We have 3 cars, 9, 90, 19 and 90 drive-through penalties for overtaking under the safety car. Don't forget 9 and 90 started on the front row of the grid, had that second row of the grid, had that spin at the first corner. They thought their troubles were over at that point. They just have to fight their way back up the order, but they have got another pit visit to make, and one of the ex-Bionic Racing Team's cars, Cyril Limer's Gallardo, also in for the same offence. So a number of drivers not having the cleanest of races, but certainly the race leading number 5 enjoying its run very much. And 26, that's been in the mix all weekend. That's the Team Lazarus entry, Sergio Campano and Fabrizio Crestani. You can see it there running around in 5th place, chasing very hard after the number 15 car that briefly led the race. Loris Spinelli started it, handed over to Marco Moscato, but he's getting right onto its tail right now. So I think we'll have some more place changes very soon indeed. 33 will be coming in for its pit stop. That's Florian Spengler. So all the running that's been so positive for that car coming, not when I say pit stop, I mean drive-through penalty and almost crashed off the track penalty by the looks of things. The tail swung out as he turned sharp right out of the final corner, and the move looks like it's been made by Sergio Crestani. Let's have a look. We'll he be listed? Yep, he's moved up to third place there. Just got past Marco Moscato and Jesse Antilla right on the tail. So third, fourth and fifth, very, very close together, as you can see. But the fact the black car has got its nose in front will delight Sergio Campana, because his teammate Fabrizio Crestani has got past into third place. Zampieri, though, sitting on a lead of just under 10 seconds, and the pits are still busy, but those are drivers making their drive-through penalties. There's 33, there's Florian Spengler back out. Will he be able to recover a top 10 position? We will see. Let's keep an eye on the screens, but eyes should be on the track at the moment, because I'm afraid Marco Moscati, in the space of one lap, or half a lap, has lost 2 places, because the number 4 entry from Lippert Motorsport, started by Isak Tutumlu and taken over by Jesse Antilla, has moved up now into 4th place. The black car ahead of him, that is Fabrizio Crestani, and he is in 3rd place and pulling away. So for Moscato, Marco Moscato in the Antonelli Motorsport entry number 15, he's down in 5th, has a big gap behind him, but he's been really rattled. 2 cars going past him in the space of half a lap. There in 2nd place is Kei Cozzolino on the order, Shinya Michimi apparently, sorry. Again, the drivers have been switched around. Zampieri leading by 10 seconds from Shinya Michimi. Campana now into 3rd, as we saw. Tutumlu up to 4th. Florian Spengler listed as 5th, but I think he'll be dropping back down. That was, of course, just as he served his drive-through penalty. That's in the pro class. Now going very well indeed in 3rd place is Fabrizio Crestani, but Jesse Antilla hunting him down in the number 4 entry from Lippert Motorsport. Now the final corner catches a few. That's an unusual place to go, turning left over the curbs. Got unsettled, and that's one of the Conrad Motorsport cars. Don't think it's hit the barriers. No, it hasn't. That's Adrian Amstutz, who was a class winner yesterday. Finished up in 5th place overall to win the Pro-Am class, but today trying to find his number on the timing screens means he's way down in 26th, and that's not helped the situation at all. That spin cost him quite a handful of places in that little cluster of cars. Here down to turn 1 we have Crestani, and doing a very good job in 3rd place. And I'm afraid for number 15, the white car with the red and blue stripe up the nose, it led the race briefly, leading the Pro-Am standings though. It's fallen to 5th place with Marco Moscati at the wheel, but Spinelli listed there as leading, and looks like victory is assured for them. Where did they place in class yesterday? They were sort of right up at the sharp end, but certainly dominating the Pro-Am standings through the course of this race on Sunday morning at Paul Ricard. Gap between 1st and 2nd was just under 10 seconds. It's now out to 10 and a bit seconds, 10.4 seconds. Some great fighting out on the track. Raton Racing doing their best to make up for lost places. And that's one thing this circuit provides. There are plenty of places in which you can try to overtake. There is space if you run wide. Just saw the gold car running that little bit wide there too, but 13 enjoying the battle. That's the Sportec Motorsport entry of Jürgen Krebs, who was dominant in the AM class yesterday, but today not going his way. He is 3rd in the class. He's got to try and hunt down Markin Eichen. He's just a few moments behind. But 63 is leading the Class D Exponent Racing team. Cedric Lima leading the way in that class, sharing with Laurent Jenny. And there it is, Lima leading the class, 3.4 seconds ahead of Inaiken, and Krebs 4.2 down. So plenty of fighting in the AM standings. So battles within a battle, if you will. Down almost to the final 10 minutes of this 50-minute race, and nobody seems to have any answers. There's the car in 2nd place. That was Kei Cozzolino, but he is increasingly far off the tail of Roman Mavlanov. The car that Roman Mavlanov started and Daniel Zampieri is driving at the moment. There's the car that's leading the Class 63, Cedric Lima, and Laurent Jenny leading the AM standings at the moment. Ex-Bionic entry, looking very mean in its black livery, and being remarkably unusual in this, he's staying on the black stuff in the middle part of the circuit. And certainly we've seen many, many drivers running wide. This race is definitely settling down into a pattern now, and it's a very good pattern if your name is Daniel Zampieri. You're 10.6 seconds clear and edging clear of the number 16 entry shared by Kei Cozzolino and Shinya Michimi. So a good run. They picked up a good result yesterday. They were in the top handful of cars. In fact, again, I forgot, they dropped down towards the tail of the race, ended 8th, but still points in the bag. Approaching the 10 minutes to go mark before the checkered flag will come out. Yesterday we managed 21 laps. Of course, there was a safety car period in the early parts of this race while the 2 interlock cars were cleared from the early part of the lap, so I don't expect we will have as many, but working hard out and beyond. That's the Adrian Amstutz, number 10, that placed so strongly yesterday for Conrad Motorsport, but we've seen it have the rotation out of the final corner after out of the Virage du Pont, as it's called, and now he's trying to get his head back down again, having lost ground, lost 5 or 6 positions in that moment, but he's way down the order, 29th, so he's had all sorts of delays, hasn't been his day. So Martin Eichen there in the number 11 car. That's his second in the AM class. Let's just reiterate, running for Conrad Motorsport, same team that runs Adrian Amstutz. Amstutz has had the spins, but very good, solid run from Martin Eichen in the number 11 entry. So Zampieri leading the race by, will it be over 11 seconds this time? There he is, the big bright blue stripe up the middle, helping to identify over 11 seconds. It's 7 thousandths below 12 seconds. There it is, Kay Cozzolino listed as 11.993 seconds behind, and he's edging clear of Fabrizio Crestani. Jesse Antia still locked on the tail of Crestani, so the black car still holding down 3rd place, but nobody seems to have an answer to this man. Great opening stint from Roman Mavlanov, forced his way into the lead, drove beautifully, pulled ever further clear, handed over to Daniel Zampieri, and the disappointments of yesterday will be fading into the background, also in the knowledge that there's no way that the driver who's been dominating this series, Patrick Kujala, will pick up any points today. So anytime your rival picks up a 0, and it's a chance for you to benefit, and if you can benefit by winning the race, well, all the better. Maximum points. Kay Cozzolino whacking the curb on the inside, shortcutting the story, but you can see the corner, but you can see the balance of the car there, really excellent. He had the power down at exactly the right moment. He's doing all he can to stop the gap extending between himself and the race leading number 5, with Daniel Zampieri doing his utmost on board. The battle for 3rd place, though, is definitely hotting up, because Jesse Antia in the white car, number 4, getting very close indeed to the tail of the Crestani Campana car that has been ahead of him a while, and they absolutely worked their way past the 15 car, pulled well clear of it, but now they're fighting very hard indeed in this battle for 3rd place. Up the rise they come. Here they are in the background, the black car with the white roof holding down 3rd place, and behind Jesse Antia, another Finnish driver, pushing very hard indeed in the white number 4. Conditions here in the south of France, perfect for racing this morning. It's warm, hasn't got to full hot yet, but certainly the drivers in the cockpits of these Huracans will be feeling very hot indeed. It's been fast and furious action. There was a brief period behind the safety car where they could cool down, but for Antonelli Motorsport, life seems good at the moment as they're leading the Pro-Am class, but most importantly the number 5 leading the race, and it could be a good haul of points. Now, will Jesse Antia in number 4 gain any place? Contact with the 19 car being pushed out of the way by the Campana Crestani car that holds down 3rd place. Let's hope there's no damage there, but a rather rude rebuffing of the 19 Gallardo. Cyril Lima will not be best pleased with that. Pushed slightly out of the way, but Crestani absolutely determined to hold on to 3rd place, and Antia in the number 4 Huracan pushing very hard indeed. I suppose you can't afford to hang back in traffic when the racing's this close, but if anything, the gap between 3rd and 4th has extended. It was under a second last time around, 0.887 of a second. And in fact, I think it's going to continue going out, because Antia has got caught behind a back marker going through turn 3 and turn 4, and the gap is way more than a second now. This is the moment that Crestani had been hoping for, able to make an escape, because the Finn had been hunting him down. Okay, there's no traffic between them now, but the traffic certainly didn't help Antia. Now let's have a replay. Look at the replay. The 19 Gallardo will be just edged wide to the edge of the circuit. He was already keeping out the way as much as he could without driving off the circuit, but Crestani edged him that little bit further wide, stole the moment, put another car between himself and Jesse Antia, and the gap between them will definitely be more than a second when they get around to the start-finish line again. There's Kay Cozzolino coming up the incline In second place, into scene in the background, there's a back marker, then the black car with the white roof, that's Crestani, the number 26 car, holding down third place. He's definitely extended on this lap. He's worked the traffic very well indeed, if a little robustly. Now, Anteo, does he have any answers? Can he fight back? Well, he lost half a second in the first sector of this lap. The lap's split into 3 sectors, so third place is looking increasingly as though it will belong to car number 36. Oh, you can't get much closer without contact than we saw there, and I'm afraid the car in front has been pushed somewhat wide. Milos Pavlovic started that one, but not going so well now. So Pro-Am standings, it's still the Spinelli car by 1.1 seconds. Very, very close indeed. The 96 car chasing really strongly. That's the Automobile Tricolore car shared by Raffaele Giannoni and Milos Pavlovic. So right in the heart of the battle there. First to second, by the way, 13 seconds now going out. Number 15 still leading the class in Pro-Am, but by the skin of his teeth. Dropped back, he came out in third place, fell back to fifth, is still in fifth, but now the place has changed, the order has changed. Pavlovic has just got past, so Marco Moscato now just under a second down, pushed down to sixth place, but more importantly from him, out of the lead of the Pro-Am class. So there's number 15, had a while at the head of the race. After the pit stops, however, it's dropped back and is dropping back more. It could yet lose another place, because the number 2 entry over Kelvin Snooks, Mikko Escalainen now right on his tail. So busy few laps, and there is our new leader in the Pro-Am class. That's Milos Pavlovic. Made his move, made his escape, and now Kelvin Snooks' car has made the move as well. The number 2 car goes up into 6th place overall, which is second in the Pro-Am class. Fewer than 4 minutes remaining in the race at the moment, and I bet they wish the race could have stopped 5 minutes short, because then they would have won the Pro-Am class. But for Marco Moscato, dropped back down now to 3rd in Pro-Am. Still very busy as you go into the chicane halfway down the Mistral Straight. The left, then it's actually quieter. It's a chicane, but with a long run to where you take your second deviation. The left followed by the right, and then the left again. Onto the Mistral Straight one more time. There's the Milos Pavlovic car that is pulling clear in class now. That's leading the way in class number 96. Milos Pavlovic sharing with Raffaele Giannoni. And it looks so the place could be theirs, 5th place overall, but importantly the points, unless we can have a further charge from Kelvin Snooks' number 2 car. Looks so the Pro-Am points will go the way of the 96 entry. Overall race lead, though, is not looking as though it's going to be changed at all, because Milos Pavlovic, I beg your pardon, Daniel Zampieri, well, it's come down by 0.2 of a second in traffic, but he's still more than 13 seconds clear of the car coming into your focus there. That's the number 16 entry, shared by Kei Cozzolino and started by Shinya Michimi. So great run from them, but of course removed from the action. He's still running, but he's down at the tail of the field in 26th position after not just the drive, not just the puncture, the spin, the puncture. Let's get it in the right order. Spin, puncture, pit stop, repair, extra pit stop for pit stop offence. So Patrick Kujala will be getting 0 points. Car 13. That won the AM class yesterday with less than 2 minutes to go in the race. I'm afraid it's 3rd place in class for Jürgen Krebs in the very, very attractive looking green number 13 entry from Sportec Motorsport, the Swiss run team. Car 11 though, that's Markin Eichen. He is 2nd in the AM class, but we have to look to car 63. The black ex-Barnick Racing Team entry, Cedric Lima and Laurent Jenny, they leading that class. Checkered flag will be coming out very soon indeed, and it will be showed to the driver of this car, the number 5, Daniel Zampieri. Out alone, 13 seconds clear, no pressure on him now. So disappointment yesterday, pit stop penalty led to a drive-through, left them only 4th place overall. We'd seen there was race-winning speed in the car, but that extra pit stop, visit to the pits, put them back in 4th place and handed victory to Patrick Kujala. He took it with both hands, but today, I'm afraid, no points for the Finn. 5 wins on the trot, and the 6th definitely not happening for the 32 car, down in 26th place, but no such worries at all for the number 5 crew today. Brilliant, brilliant run from both Roman Mavlanov, who started the race, and Daniel Zampieri. There'll be one more lap to go, so about to start the final lap. He has 20 laps on the board, right now. So like yesterday, we will manage 21 laps. We did have the safety car period, but on to the final lap with nobody pushing them at all. Let's see how far behind the 16 entry Cozzolino Mishimi entry will be. Will it be 14 seconds behind, even if it's come down by a handful of seconds? 14.6 seconds is the gap, so the gap's actually gone out on that lap. So Zampieri not backing off at all, but it's been a lot in traffic. The number 16 car in the last few laps, as you could see, coming in ahead of a gaggle of cars. 6 seconds clear of the third place car, so Cozzolino Mishimi safe in that second place. But the battle for third place still between Crestani and Antia, very close indeed. Less than a second between them, half a second between the black Crestani car with the white roof. There he is, getting past the back marker. Oh dear, the brakes just don't come the way of Jesse Antia. That's several times he's lost out in traffic. This is the final lap, but I'm afraid he lost out to Neil Huggins in the Top Cats Racing Gallardo. And you can see the back of that pack now, but Huggins had nowhere else to go, couldn't get out of the way. And another gain in traffic there for Crestani, and unfortunately for Jesse Antia, he lost out yet again. Here we are, the clock has run down to 0. We're on the final lap. That battle for third will run all the way to the line. Antia, I don't know if he has any answers, but it doesn't look as though any more traffic will come. No nervous tension on the wall for Antonelli Motorsport at all. Crossed fingers there. I don't think they even need cross fingers for luck, because going around through Le Beausset on the final lap, Zampieri has it totally under control. Actually, it looks like he's come off the power a little bit there, and a slight twitch, but going through the twisty final sequence of corners. Fourth place yesterday was disappointing for them. Oh, the battle for third is getting closer. It's the last lap. Jesse Antia is really about to make a move, diving down the inside, can't quite make it into Le Beausset. Now there's a slower car ahead of them. Who will it obstruct? Has it stayed out of the way of Crestani enough? Will Antia be able to get the power on sooner? Coming through into the final corner though, no such tension at all for a race winner coming through. Daniel Zampieri, fourth place yesterday with Roman Mavlinov. Victory today, so he can back off, which is exactly what he does, but victory. So Roman Mavlinov very happy on the pit wall. A clear win. It doesn't matter how many seconds it was by. He was 14.6 seconds clear going on to the final lap, but this is where the action is. It's the battle for third place. Oh dear. In the chase, poor Antia gets clipped by a back marker who then spins, so that's separated it. Oh, and he's had a spin on it hasn't got to the start-finish line. Antia got a puncture, he's hit the wall on the far side of the circuit. He clipped the other car, or the other car clipped him. Well, it doesn't look as though he's going to get to the finish line, so it won't be fourth place at all for Antia. So the Pavlovich car that wins the Pro-Am class up. Oh, dearie me, you know, he had bad luck in traffic, got caught at the final corner. Damage was done. He then had a further spin and an absolutely livid driver. He's running across the track. I'm not sure I advise that. The race is still on. I think he might get a little tap on the shoulder for that. Car still coming past at racing speed. Victory, though, for Mavlinov and Zampieri. Wave yellow flags for drivers when they're least expecting it, coming out of the final corner on the final lap. But absolutely clear winner. That battle for third place overflowed on the final lap, unfortunately. And there is number 11 coming through to end up second. It should be in the AM class, yes, because of course Lauren Jenny has crossed the line. So Markin Eichen goes to second place in AM, 12th place overall, and victory in that class to car 63. But an outlet of breath for everybody concerned in this race. It's been breathless from start to finish, but victory for number 5, Kei Cozzolino, Shinya Michimi. Doing well again today, second place for them, and Fabrizio Crestani managed to hold off Jesse Antia in that battle for third place. He comes home ahead of 96, which wins the Pro-Am class, that Milos Pavlovich sharing with Raffaele Giannanoni. So action from start right the way to the finish. Red lights on the starting gantry. The race is over. The checkered flag has been waved, and Kelvin Snooks finishing second in the Pro-Am class, 5th place overall, and Florian Sprengler, even with the drive-through, managing to come home in 6th place. But I think the saddest story of the race, of course, Patrick Kujala feels hard done by, but if you'll finish it doesn't get any better. Jesse Antia, collision at the final corner as he was battling for third place with the car, the left black car going off the screen there, and ended up getting a further spin. Here's a replay. Look how close it is. This is the battle for third place overall into the final sequence of corners. Into the final corner, diving past a back marker who then collects the side of Jesse Antilla. Now, it looks so he just has to charge the finish line, but the car's twitching a little bit. It's got a puncture, maybe broken suspension actually, because round it goes. Doesn't get to the start-finish line, clumps the wall. So Jesse Antilla, in the space of 100 metres, goes from in the hunt to out of the race. Checkered flag being waved there. He only had to go about another 50 metres to be classified, but unfortunately for him, Antilla will end up tumbling down the order. In fact, listed in 19th place overall at the conclusion. So a good helping of points, possibility of a podium, and unfortunately coming away with nothing. So Zampieri and Mavlanov winning by 15.9 seconds from Mishimi and Cozzolino. Campana and Crestani another 8 seconds back in third place. Then Giannoni and Pavlovic winning the Pro-Am class in fourth. A very good run for them. Escalainen and Snooks fifth place overall, second in the Pro-Am class. Florian Sprengler managed to get some points back even though he had a drive-through penalty. 36 seconds down, but just ahead of Spinelli and Moscato. They were third in the Pro-Am class. Ray and Faccioni, hardly talked about them in the race. Fourth in the Pro-Am class, 8th overall. And we just see Krebs, he won the AM class yesterday. He's 13th today, but that means third place in the class. And we had 28 finishers from 32 starters, a pretty good batting rate. We lost a couple of people early on bringing out the safety car, but for the crews that made it to the finish, it was an exciting race today. And most exciting, of course, if you were Roman Mavlanov and Daniel Zampieri winning by 15.9 seconds. A job well done, and also, of course, with Patrick Kujala coming away with 0, they will be closing the points at the top of the championship table. And there is the number 5 car that was dominant today. Made its way past Kujala very early in the race. Kujala then had his problems. They were then made all the worse by an extra drive-through in the pits, but he'd had that puncture, had to spin, and the race was run for him. But for Daniel Zampieri, he was being hauled out of the car. A hot morning's work, but a very good morning's work. So the cross fingers on the pit wall, I don't think they made any difference. But now, bit of argument in the pit lane there, because guess what, that was the conclusion of the spin. Oh, temperature's running very high, so I'm afraid differences of opinion, I think we'll call them. Meanwhile, in the happy area of Parc Fermé, we have our winning crews, and the top 3 crews, of course, will line up there. And there's Roman Mavlanov on the right, and very shy Daniel Zampieri keeping his helmet on the left, but a dominant win for the number 5 crew. So that's what he looks like. And OJ, always quick up and down the pit lane. He's homing in for an interview with our race winners, but be interesting to hear what they think about the liquid coming out of the back of Patrick Kujala. But I said OJ was there, and he's just waiting for Patrick Kujala Daniel Zampieri to take his earpieces out. We'll hear from him very shortly in Parc Fermé. So he's got them, the earpieces are out. Interview with the winning crew.
Daniel, a fantastic drive. You must be so happy right now.
Really happy. We did today with a good job. Fortunately for yesterday, but I told you, it's life. Sometimes you are okay, sometimes you are lagging, but today it was all perfect. It's okay.
I was stood behind your team principal on the wall. It means so much to the team for this win.
So much?
So much to the team for this win.
Sure. The team did a lot. He worked all the night because we had some problem. Yesterday we found some problem in the car. We improved, and thanks to the team, thanks to Lamborghini that made this good car. It's really good to drive.
So Daniel Zampieri happy with victory. Interesting to hear the team had to do so much work, so Antonelli Motorsport deserved the plaudits today. Victory for them in the number 5 car, looking beautiful down in the sunshine in the pit lane there. Busy place in Parc Fermé. 30 cars started the race. 32 cars in fact, and a couple came to blows early on. We had spinners, but we also have winners, and that's number 5 victory for Daniel Zampieri and Roman Mavlanov, the Russian driver who started the race. Flipped the order from yesterday, of course. Zampieri started yesterday. Still space down in the pit lane for people in the park, Ferme for people to park. 74. That was even Benvenuti. I think that was the car that had the clash with Jesse Antilla going to the final corner. Here's a reiteration of the results. 15.9 seconds between Zampieri Mavlanov's car and the Machimi Cozzolino car that really had quite a quiet race on its own. Everybody else seemed to be in the heat of the battle, and certainly Campana Crestani car at the end with number 4 pushing so hard, Jesse Antilla giving chase. That held on to third place, but the real drama was what happened in its wake as Antilla was pushed into a spin and didn't make it to the finish line, which promoted the Giannone Pavlovich car, number 96, into 4th place overall and victory in the Pro-Am class ahead of Escalanen and Snooks, who were just in their slipstream, just 1.5 seconds behind in 5th place. Florian Spengler, points for him, including a drive-through penalty. So he's 6th place overall. And Spinelli and Moscato, they had a time at the sharp end of the race, but slid back to finish 7th overall, but still 3rd in the Pro-Am class. But in 11th place overall, victory in the Am class went to Laurent Geny and Cedric Lima in car 63. Jürgen Krebs there shown in 13th place overall. Still valuable points for his Am class hopes, and another good run for the Swiss driver. Patrick Kujala, 24th place and a lap down. He had a race filled with many, many dramas, got them all out of the way in one race, I think we can say. A spin, a puncture, leaking liquid out of his car, a drive-through penalty. 24th, well, he has victory yesterday to cheer him. When all's going well, it's going well, but he had all his bad luck, his bad form here today on Sunday at Paul Ricard. And listed 30th and last, Alberto Cerchi and Giacomo Barri, 2nd yesterday, but today the flip side of the coin, much as it was for Patrick Kujala. So the drivers gathering their thoughts up on the balcony, waiting for the podium celebrations. Of course, the 3 classes of cars competing in this race, plus of course we had 6 Gallardos at the tail. Now another replay of the chase to the finish for the battle for 3rd place. Fabrizio Crestani in front on the left, tried to turn into the corner but clipping the nose of the 74. It was indeed the 74 entry from Imperial Racing, even Benvenuti. So, well, you have to look at that from many, many angles to work out who was right and who was wrong, but the outcome was Jesse Antilla had to spin. We think there was suspension damage because on the start-finish straight the car spun around and hit the wall on the outside of the circuit, didn't make it to the finish line, so he had been 4th, pushing for 3rd, and he came away with nothing. Drivers rehydrating. It was 50 minutes of fast and furious action. For some of them, they drove half the race, some drove the whole race, but it's hot in the cockpits, and no wonder a lot of water being taken on board at the moment. So hugs all round up there, just working out the order to bring the drivers onto the podium for the ceremony. Great podium here at Paul Ricard, sitting up high, looking out across the trees and the mountains in the background. You'll see the Master of Ceremonies checking his microphone is on, and he will be calling them up very soon indeed. And now let's have a look at the highlights of the race. It was all fine at the moment for Patrick Kujala. He was going to be starting from pole position, but these cars on the 2nd row, they thought the Raton Racing duo would be having a good race, but they weren't in the running for long. It's fine for them as they go prepare for the rolling start behind Mavlanov and Patrick Kujala, but unfortunately their race was to be a short one. As you'll see, going down to the first corner, Alberto Di Folco in number 90 challenging very hard, couldn't get past, and the 15 car making a challenge too. It's all good. Everyone funnels through the first corner. Coming down, look, there's liquid coming out of the back of Patrick Kujala's car leading the race. Suddenly a double rotation. They didn't hit each other. Everyone else managed to avoid them, but for Raton Racing, an absolute disaster. Then one of the cars towards the tail of the field has another spin. There we are, the black one going for rotation. Was that on the liquid that came out of Kujala's car? Either way, let's have a look. Is there more liquid coming out? Yes, so there is. A little bit of liquid leaking out into the face of Roman Mavlanov, but Mavlanov didn't have to wait too long to make his move. And then round, having been already dropped to 2nd place, flames licking out of the back. Was that due to the puncture? Was the spin due to the puncture, or did the puncture get picked up during the spin? Either way, a disaster. Very slow lap for Patrick Kujala back to the pits, flapping rubber. The wheel change wasn't to be the only visit, unfortunately, he was to have for the pit lane, but up front it was super tight, and there was the Raton Racing car fighting its way back up the order, and now leading the race again after the pit stops 5 back ahead of 15, so Antonelli Motorsport doing very well in the race at that point, first and second. Florian Spengler ran well up the order, and then unfortunately he had to have an extra visit to the pits, so he picked his way up towards the front and then fell back down. Now the 15 car getting caught out in traffic. Kelvin Snooks pushing him further back, so I'm afraid the Pro-Am honours went away from 15, and but nobody had the answers to the Zampieri and Mavlenov duo, and there's Mavlenov delighted with victory after the disappointments of yesterday. The race wasn't over until it was over, and this is the final corner of the battle for third place. The car in fourth getting spun round and then having a spin of its own on the start-finish straight. Look, it twitched and then round it went just by pit entry, clouting the wall on the outside, and Jesse Antia absolutely livid. So that's the podium for the top 3 finishing crews. On the top step, of course, we have Roman Mavlenov and Daniel Zampieri. On second place, we have Kei Cozzolino and Shinya Michimi. And third place there for the number 26 crew, of course, that's the Team Lazarus entry of Sergio Campano and Fabrizio Crestani. So trophies for them. Of course, they're the third place trophies, and now the winning trophies being awarded to Daniel Zampieri and Roman Mavlenov. Big Blancpain trophy as well for the winning crew. Blancpain clock. Drivers these days need 3 hands, so many things to hold up on the trophy, but they can be very proud indeed. Roman Mavlenov and Daniel Zampieri, a great job this morning. Disappointed to end up 4th overall yesterday, but not only did they get the maximum points for victory today, but importantly from their championship perspective, Patrick Kujla, the runaway leader in the championship, has come away with 0 points on Sunday at Paul Ricard. It gives them a hope that they can claw their way back into title aspiration. So now we'll wait for the second podium ceremony, which will be for the Pro-Am runners. And there is the championship table. The gap was 30 points. It's now 20 points. Patrick Kujla, 75. Sergio Campano and Fabrizio Crestani, third on the track today. They're on to 55. But Roman Mavlenov and Daniel Zampieri closing back in again on 47 points apiece to be third overall. And there's quite a gap back to Liberati and Niederhauser on 35 points in fourth. Kei Cozzolino and Shinya Michimi, their points have moved them up to 5th place overall in the championship. And now the Pro-Am honours. Mounting the top step, we have the 96 crew, so they did a very good job to get to the front and stay there. Giannoni and Milos Pavlovic, delighted with their afternoon's work. So that's the Italian national anthem, of course. So victory in the Pro-Am class for Raffaele Giannoni and Milos Pavlovic. Third place trophies in class going to Loris Spinelli and Marco Moscato. Marco Moscato on the left, the taller of the duo there. And second place trophies to Mikko Escalainen and Kelvin Snooks, who worked their way up in the closing laps to take second in the Pro-Am class and look pretty pleased with their morning's activity.
Recevoir vos applaudissements d'abord et ensuite naturellement recevoir les honneurs de la presse qui est venue très nombreuse saluer cette performance.
It's a very, very busy weekend here at Paul Ricard. Already the cars starting to go out for the next race on this morning's agenda here in the south of France. But for these drivers, their race weekend has come to a conclusion. They're the happy ones. They've got the trophies, and importantly, from a racing driver's point of view, they have the champagne. Drivers all thoroughly enjoy racing here at Paul Ricard. Plenty of space to go out racing. Beautiful weather conditions, and it almost feels like a country club. Paul Ricard, very much a circuit in its own unique style, and a brilliant setting. Looking around the paddock, the supercars that people have brought in to the circuit, it's supercar heaven. So they're the Pro-Am honours. Mikko Escalane and Kelvin Snook second in class today, but 62 points. They have a 9-point lead. Adrian Amstutz, dominant yesterday, tripped up today, slips back into second place. Giannoni's third. Moscato and Loris Spinelli, good result today, and they move to fourth place in class. It's been a wonderful weekend for the Pro-Am runners, but honours today definitely not going to Patrick Kujla. He doesn't get the 6th win in a row, but Daniel Zampieri and Roman Bavlanov, they were the drivers who owned Race Sunday here at Paul Ricard. Another wonderful race for the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo at Paul Ricard. Bring it on.